Yeah, shalom, brothers and sisters. All praise to Yahweh and Most High. I started this teaching series on the Passover Explained. You could check out the part 1 of the video in all my YouTube channels, my YouTube page, my TikTok page, and my Facebook page. You could see them on all those social media handles so that you get a background understanding of it in order to cue into this particular video. Like I mentioned previously, the Passover lamb was Yahushua HaMashiach. That was why when he was explaining the Last Supper, to his disciples in Luke chapter 22, verses 19 to 20, and also Matthew chapter 26, verses 26 to 28, and Mark chapter 14, verses 22 to 24. Then Paul also made reference to the supper in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 23 to 24. Now, these entire scriptures were explaining in Luke, Matthew, and Mark. Yahushua HaMashiach was explaining that the Passover we have been doing all this while, the Passover feast we have been doing, I am the fulfillment of that Passover. I am the fulfillment of the lamb. Those lambs before now was a foreshadow, was a pattern. But I am the final sacrifice. I am the lamb, as stated, as pointed out by John. I am the lamb. That is Yahushua speaking now. I am the lamb that is to be killed for the remission of your sin. My blood is to be shed for the forgiveness of your sin. My body is to be broken. So he took the bread as his body and broke it. Then he took the cup as his blood and drank of it and gave it to the disciples. So in other words, he was making them understand this Passover we have been celebrating all this while, I am the fulfillment of it. So by my death, by my burial, I am fulfilling that final sacrifice. The final sacrifice. And so this drink of wine and bread that you are partaking of now, do it in remembrance of me. In other words, do it every year in remembrance of me. Do it every time in remembrance of me. Because the Passover lamb was to be done yearly. It was a pattern. It was to be done yearly. So when the final sacrifice was done, in the same pattern, Yahushua HaMashiach was explaining and making his disciples understand that you are to do it in remembrance every year. Do it in remembrance. The Last Supper is for the remembrance of the final sacrifice of the lamb. So the Passover was to be done yearly. And this Pascha or Passover, the Last Supper, was to be done yearly in remembrance of the final sacrifice of Yahushua HaMashiach, which connotes or which corresponds with 2 Kings chapter 23 verse 21 that says the Passover must be done yearly. Ezekiel 45 verse 21 that says the Passover must be done yearly. And 1 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 8. So we should understand that the Passover lamb was Yahushua HaMashiach. Yahushua HaMashiach was the Passover lamb. 1 Peter First Peter chapter 1 verse 19. He is the Passover lamb. And by his blood, by his final sacrifice as the Passover lamb, he was to provide the following for us. Number one, we are sealed and protected by the Lamb. Revelation chapter 7, verses 1 through to 8. We are sealed and protected by the Lamb. To be sealed and protected by the Lamb, as stated in that book of Revelation 7, 1 to 8. A. We are sealed and protected by the Lamb in wrath. Yahweh shows mercy. In wrath, in his anger, Yahweh shows mercy. Revelation chapter 7, verse 1 to verse 3. We could see that Yahweh, in his wrath, he showed mercy by reason of the blood, by reason of Yahushua HaMashiach, the lamb that was slain. Mercy became available. No wonder scripture says his mercies are new every morning. His mercies are new every morning. Every morning there's a outpouring of his mercy by that sacrifice. Number two, B. Seeing unfaithfulness, Yahweh still kept his promise. Revelation chapter 4, verses 4 to verses 8. So, number one thing that the Yahushua's sacrifice did for us was that we were sealed and protected by the Lamb. To be sealed and protected by the Lamb, the wrath of Yahweh that was supposed to be against us, his mercy annulled it. Then our unfaithfulness, despite our unfaithfulness, even when he saw our unfaithfulness, Yahweh still kept his promise. Which is the promise? The promise he first mentioned in first Adam and Eve, when he said his son was to come. And his son was to come and share his blood for us. So Yahweh kept his promise despite our unfaithfulness. Now, we are sealed and protected by the Lamb. Revelation chapter 7 verse 1 to 8. That was one of the things that Yahushua sacrifice gave to us. Number two, we are saved and made pure through the Lamb. Revelation chapter 7 verse 9 through to verse 12. We are saved and made pure through the Lamb, which is Yahushua HaMashiach. A. Under this, A, the scope of his salvation was a global one. Revelation chapter 7, verses 9 to verse 10. So we are saved and made pure through the Lamb. The scope of his salvation is glorious. Revelation chapter 7, verses 11 through to verse 12. So we are sealed and protected by the Lamb. Revelation 7, 1 to 8. We are saved and made pure through the Lamb. Revelation 7, 9 to 12. Thirdly, we are satisfied and provided for in the Lamb. We are satisfied and provided for in the Lamb. Revelation chapter 7, verse 13 through to verse 17. What did he provide for us? He made us clean, verses 13 and 14. He let us serve him, verses 15. He gave us his presence, verses 15. He provides us our needs, verses 16. He promised us to be our shepherd, verses 17. So we could see this 1 to 5 is what he satisfied and provided for us through the Lamb. Revelation chapter 7, verse 13 to verse 17. So if we could read Revelation chapter 7 all through from the beginning to verse 17, we'll get a clear picture of what we are trying to say.